Again, we're over a third done. We're headed toward that halfway mark. Good discussion on the floor today. We're moving through Senate bills, which is always good to see. So with that, I'll open it up to questions, but maybe before we move to questions, you want to talk about some budget issues? Yeah, why don't you give us the kind of update there?
Well, some of you I've talked to individually, but we are, everyone thinks this is a great budget year and that we've got, there's money flowing out the doors of the Capitol. First of all, revenue collections have been down in December and to some extent in January. So the $1 billion number, $1.3 billion everyone was talking about, is less than, we're really looking at less than $1 billion. And you know what we did early in December? We funded the prison with cash, and we funded some other things, took care of some things off the table so we wouldn't have to deal with them that we knew we were going to have to do. So let me just give you kind of a rundown. We had 275 requests for appropriation. That'll change the number, but right now it's ongoing at about $263 million, and it's one time at about $667 million, almost 68. Remember, we haven't funded WPU out of this. We have, for every 1% of WPU, we're looking at about $31 million for every 1%. So 4% is 120 million, and 5% is 150. And we have different requests. The UEA is looking at a number, the state education is looking at one, and the governor's office made a recommendation. So we have new growth in public education that's going to use up about $42 million. We have, let's see, we've got about $30 million that the governor put in for teacher bonuses. We don't know how that's going to play out until the committees start to bring us numbers back. And there's a big number in education at $32 million for counseling, and then over $100 million for upgrading schools to make them safe. In addition to all these, we have got another $100 million that the governor put in as a recommendation for air quality. The UEA they're actually recommending a 6.5% salary adjustment or WPU adjustment. And I shouldn't have said that, because that doesn't necessarily equate into a 6.5% salary adjustment. That's used for a lot of different things. It means it goes to the LEAs and they use that appropriation number. We've also got $12 million, we think, in insurance for state employees. We've got a salaries, if we do just a 2.5%, that's about $18 million, and then we've got
18 is 1%, so
2.5
would be $60 million.
And then we're probably looking at more like 2.5 to stay in market, so at least. And then you've got $20 million for wildfires that we've got to take into account. So we did take care of that last year. We put that money aside, so that isn't something we'll have to take off of whatever the number we land on. But we've got some challenges. There's going to be a lot of work ahead of us, and we've got there are going to be a lot of smiling people, I'm sure, before we finish. With if we look at those numbers we've got, we're talking almost $900 million in requests, and then we look at the big ticket items that we have to take care of, and so there's going to be some shortages before we're finished.
We're not going to spend it all, nor can we fund it all. So.
Now, I might also say, we have funded the rainy day fund to the maximum place we have to go legislatively with it. But that doesn't stop us from putting money into it. We can still fund rainy day. And I really believe we ought to be pretty thrifty in what we do as we go through the session. Now, I've been accused of being Dr. Doom. But I really think we need to be careful.
He looks like that, doesn't he? Okay.
As we look through this, we go through this process, so it's going to be it'll be a busy session. We've got our work cut out for us the next few weeks.
May I?
Go ahead, Senator May.
I would, with all the lists that you have listed from your list, I would encourage you to take care of our public employees, the ones that work for us. You know, if they go out into the real world, we offer hopefully a secure and secure employment and a good place to work and stability. And a lot of them come from, they like to be here because it's a stable job. And I think we need to take care of them because they can make more money somewhere else. But I've always thought the legislators come and go, but those staff people are here. That's what really makes government work. Because as legislators come and go and philosophies and all that stuff or move all the time, they're the ones that are constant. So I would encourage that we take care of those that take care of the state.
And that is very well said, Senator Main, and very well taken. We know the quality of people that we've worked with, so we'll keep that in mind, and we'll certainly be working with you.
I appreciate that.
Any comments, Ann?
Yeah, just, you know, I know that there are fairly high expectations out there, and that's part of what Senator Stevenson and others are dealing with. I saw long lines of people in multiple committees today with requests for appropriation that far exceed our ability to fund them. I just think it's important for people to know that we will spend time, try to kind of weigh the opportunities, select the projects that we think really have kind of some proven outcomes and can move the state forward, but we will not be able to fund everything that's on everybody's wish list, and we have to start with the things that are the most important, and that's our public employees, it's education, which is the #1 priority in the survey I've done every year that I've been in the legislature. I ask the citizens in my district, what's your #1 priority? And it is education every time, unfailing. And so we're going to need to, those will be decisions we'll have to make first and up front, and then be able to take a measured approach to what else we can do, while at the same time making sure the concern that Senator Stevenson has talked about, that we're kind of potentially in a bit of a bubble. And that we could see a downturn. I mean, just the normal economic cycle that any usually lasts 8 to 10 years, and we are really out on the edge of that. Nobody knows when it will change, but we do know that it will change. The cycles do come. And if we can be careful now, we can kind of prevent a lot of pain later. Because if we aren't careful now, don't put some money back for a rainy day. And it was fairly interesting in my survey, people said put some money back for a rainy day. They were very cognizant of wanting to do that, and that came up like kind of by third on the list, which is fairly amazing. That I think people all across Utah understand how important that is, that we be careful and conservative and not give money this year and then find ourselves just having to take drastic cuts next year. And we'll be mindful of really trying to find the right balance.
Senator Hemmert, or any comments? If not, we'll open it up for questions. And I just echo the comments that have been made here. Our public employees make us, we think we have we talk about the well-managed state, and we talk about all the things the state does, but it's because of our public employees, and surely appreciate them, and we need to take care of them. So go ahead. Questions?
Senator Stevenson, you said revenues were down. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Income tax is not being collected as rapidly as we anticipated. And part of this is because our models don't work really well with when they had with the massive federal tax changes that took place last year. And so we have anticipated numbers coming in, and they're not coming into that level. I think people are kind of holding off. They paid a lot paid last year, so we'll kind of watch and see. But we may not be back up to where our models will work well until after the quarterlies are filed again in April.
So when you say income tax isn't coming in as expected, is that because people aren't paying as quickly, or is it because people will end up paying less into the state system than anticipated?
I think they paid early last year anticipating a deduction, and A lot of business people, especially folks that have a lot of money, sometimes say, well, I don't need to file early. I just will keep my money and keep it to work for me as long as I can. And so they'll hold until the very last day to file, or toward the end of the filing period.
So the money will come in, it's just a question of when?
We think. We don't, I mean, it's this thing, remember back in 208, when this thing kind of, the wheels fell off of it, we didn't know, we were at $1 billion in surplus or in extra revenue, new revenue, in the 1st of December, and by the middle of September, we were actually in here trying to lay off employees and cut agencies.
This is an effort to predict. The budget that we're funding starts in July. What's that? 4 months away, and goes until the following July, which is 16 months away. So we're trying to predict between 4 to 16 months out into the future. And so those revenues aren't here yet, obviously. We're trying to predict what revenues will be during that period of time. And the model he talks about, as you receive a spike in income tax, or because of a federal tax change and people change their whatever they're doing inside of their personal or business decision making, it can make those models a little hard to do that prediction. So I think the economy's still strong. We're seeing still low unemployment rate, but it's us trying to predict it and trying to determine and see what the reactions are to those federal tax changes. I think is what
And
most
another
of it is.
thing today, I heard, you could speak, okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sandy.
I just heard on the news that people are filing their taxes and they're getting less back than what they thought, because this is the first year that really the tax overhaul, they can really see it, and they're getting less money. So less money means they spend less. So maybe they were going to make a big purchase, maybe they won't do that. So it's the one example, she thought she was going to get $1,000 more than what she did. $1,000 for a family, I mean, they can go out and buy a refrigerator or whatever. So that's going to affect, I think, sales tax, because that's what people usually use that money for, is to buy something. Hopefully they save a tad, but usually so we don't know about what the outcome of that will be either.
It just seems like, having covered this for some time, that in past years the estimates are always described as conservative and a range
Yes.
for planning purposes, and we don't often hear that they're falling short.
We've never dealt with Dr. Doom before.
There is that. but it seems like this would be fairly troubling if, given the conservative nature of the estimates to start with, the fact that they're arranged and they're still falling short. I mean, should people be worried?
I don't know that people should be worried, but I think we as a legislature need to remain conservative to make sure we maintain our ranking in the states the way we are. Just remember, we took this into account in December as we moved through things, and we did pull some money out. That's trend money. That will come back in a couple of weeks. We'll pull that back in as we see what the economy is doing.
But to your point, that we just saw the list, and the reason we're not going to try to spend it all or fund it all is because we just want to make sure that we don't spend money we don't have. Okay.
Everyone
I
said
saw your
wonderful.
your head nodding. Big
Well, they
yes.
all say it. I don't need to. They're everyone,
Before
We are going to be careful here. I mean, and we all are fiscally conservative and want to
We
make
are.
sure that we want to make sure
Even
that
us.
we responsibly manage.
Especially you. What do you mean?
Especially us.
Okay. Yes.
Before we depart,
We just have vision.
That you do have vision.
let me remind you, these requests, this $263 million and $668 million that I talked about, those are requests for a lot of new projects or additions to projects we have in the state. But, it's going to be hard to go through those and make cuts, but we all want to remember we lived very well last year without any of that. So
Yeah.
I think as we work through, we'll come to a conclusion here on how much money we have got and how much we can spend wisely.
We still have a bright future. We just want to be cautious.
So managing expectations.
We will make sure we give value back to the taxpayers of the state of Utah.
We will do that. Okay.
They like that quote, you know that.
Other questions? Anything else that it's seems like we're moving ahead. So
I'm trying to think of something to ask about Medicaid, but I just.
We are
okay, we're done.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
With that, we'll conclude.
Well,
Thank
it's
you
4 to
again.
1. How
Okay.
about that?